I think too, one of the things that's always there, which hasn't changed, is people are, clients would be trying to push the envelope. They'd say to you things like, I'm going on a trip to Dubai. Can I claim this as a business expense with my family and my kids? This kind of thing, And my friend James Carn, who's done a lot of the webinars with me, he says if you have to ask the question, it can't be done.
It's true.
Rule
one in the revenue.
It's better off not to attract any attention from revenue by doing stuff like that, because you're just asking for trouble now.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Platinum Properties Podcast. In today's episode, Paul spoke with Alan Moore, the founder and CEO of Tax World Limited. After 42 years working in tax with revenue and in practice, Alan Moore retired from tax advisory work in 2020. During this episode, he talked to Paul about the influences of AI in the workforce. He talked about revenue and its influence, and his main topic was about how Tax World has switched from regular consultations to AI-powered consultations. A really great episode, and we hope you enjoy.
Okay, welcome back to this episode of Platinum Talks as we do on our Platinum Business Podcast. You asked me a good few leads had come in to try and bring in Alan Moore, and we tried our best to do it over the last. He's a very, very busy man, and I'm delighted to announce that he's on here today. So for all you accountancies, that practice people that listen into our podcast, maybe take as many notes as you can, sit back, relax, and enjoy the next half an hour, 25 to half an hour minutes, and we'll try and discover a little bit more about Alan and Tax World. Alan, thanks a million for jumping over today and giving us a bit of time. Delighted. Lovely stuff. As I said, we set up Platinum back in 2019, and I think every event we've ever had, your name comes up all of the time, because obviously property and taxation, we want to try and make sure we're getting them right. And Brendan Allen as well, that does a good bit of tax talks in here, speaks about you highly all the time. And I think anyone to do with tax, they really look up to you. So we're really, really honoured to have you on today. And
no problem at all. I think back in the the 90s and the early 2000s, there weren't that many people prepared to. It was kind of, if you're an accountant or you're a tax expert, you kind of keep your secrets to yourself. And any kind of tax planning ideas you have, you tend to keep them close. You keep your cards close to your chest. I always went the opposite way on that. I always said, the very first seminar I did myself was called 100 Ways to Save Tax, and it's a different attitude towards letting the secrets out there or telling people how to save tax versus keeping it to yourself and hoping to charge them an awful lot of money because other people don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's why I wrote the book, Tax Magic.
Yeah. I'm just looking at it there now, because upstairs in our studio, there's probably about, I'm just trying to think back, I think we've got 22, 23, and maybe 20, or would it be 23, 24, and 25 edition. We had to stop a man from trying to rob one at one of our events. So I said, you can buy it online. That's my one. Put it back. But it's a great book, and we're going to go into it a little bit later on as well, because for me as well, left school when I was early, and that book really simplifies for any entrepreneur, I think, out there. Tax is a really, really scary thing, and whether we do it right or wrong at times, or we get good advice or bad advice, I think it's always a little bit easier if you do educate yourself in the way that book is written as well. It's a bit of fun, it's a bit of laugh, and it breaks down the tax code that we're working on a little bit better. Now, I've been to some of your other events where they've been online as well, and they're obviously tuned into high accountancy stuff, but it's great that you can get in and get involved and educate yourself a little bit on it. That sometimes we can maybe say to our accountants, well, I don't know if that's quite correct. But anyway, we'll tap into that. So a little bit about yourself and just how you became a tax expert. And I think you're in the game a long, long time as well.
Yeah, well, look, I'm 65 now, and I in 1978, at the age of 18, I got the civil service exam, and within a couple of days, I was in the revenue commissioners. And I went to college at night. The revenue would pay for you to go to college at night, so I got them to pay for not only my BCom degree but my BA degree, and I did programming in the BCom and accountancy, and then did English and philosophy in the BA, and then I did the tax exams, Institute of Tax exams. So I managed to get 3 degrees paid for by the revenue while I was working there. That was in the 80s, and I was promoted Inspector of Taxes. Then went to work in a publishing company for a couple of years, and then did an MBA in Trinity. And that was in the mid 90s, and then was called back to work for Revenue on the Taxes Consolidation Act, which I drafted along with some people in Revenue. There was a special team for the project, and then I wrote a book on that, which is called The Tax Book, and that eventually became the company Tax World, and Tax Magic got added to that, and it's now the website Tax World, and we now actually have taxworld.co.uk as well, which is doing quite well. We've only opened that in the last 5 years, but it's starting to get a lot of traction now with the AI, because we put the AI on the site about 2 years ago, and that's I think we've got every accountant in Ireland addicted to it now at this stage, which it's kind of like heroin. They actually need it, you know.
Yeah.
I'm getting rejection every day.
It's funny you say that. We were at an event over in the British Virgin Islands there a couple of weeks ago, and there was a girl, Kate Crawford. She wrote a book called The Atlas of AI. And, you know, for us as well, property investors, this AI seems to be taking over everything. And, you know, I'll be miles down the list of becoming educated. But when I see in Tax World, you know, heavily going into AI, obviously you've got all the accountants you could probably service them a little bit better as well. And
gives them extra hours of the day, because, you know, they can put in a question now, or they can ask the AI to write a letter to a client about, you know, local property tax, or write a letter about anything.
Yeah.
Bot will write the letter for them. So you think about the time saving involved in that. But one of the things a lot of people say is, and the knee jerk reaction is, well, you know, AI makes mistakes and unreliable and all that. It's the old story: garbage in and garbage out. If it's standing on the shoulders of very reliable information, then it won't make mistakes. But if it's you know, there's so much rubbish on the internet that the general AI systems that are out there, they will have some of that in them, and that's what leads them to make mistakes. Yeah. So our AI is founded on solid, you know, legislation and commentary and revenue manuals, etc. So it's pretty reliable, you know.
Yeah, so it's a solid information going in at the start. So it probably takes. So you founded Tax World then you set it up in 1997, and that's where probably I would have heard your name like for a long time with different events where people going to sit with you and for consultations and stuff. You stopped the consultations sort of in 2020. How has the world gone from 1997 to say 2025? And you obviously people got massive value by going and sitting with you, but now it's all done through your own AI and systems you've in place yourself. So how do you think the world of taxation has gone from when you started when you started your own practice in 1997 to 2025 now?
Yeah, I was a partner in Mazars for a while as well. That was in the early 2000s. I really started my own practice kind of around 2006, 2007. And I would have been dealing with a lot of fairly wealthy clients, you know, footballers and actors and actresses, and property developers, property owners, etc. And it's changed a lot in the sense that I think people have become a lot more impatient, and I think too, one of the things that's always there, which hasn't changed, is people are, clients would be trying to push the envelope. They'd say to you things like, I'm going on a trip to Dubai. Can I claim this as a business expense with my family and my kids? This kind of thing, And my friend James Carn, who's done a lot of the webinars with me, he says if you have to ask the question, it can't be done.
It's true.
Rule
one in the revenue.
It's better off not to attract any attention from revenue by doing stuff like that, because you're just asking for trouble now.
Yeah.
Revenue have very that's one of the big changes actually over the last 20 years or so in tax. The revenue have resourced themselves. They've been able to recruit people from the big four firms and from accountancy firms, which they wouldn't have before, because the only people who could have come in would have been through the civil service exams. So they can recruit just like any other business and beef up their resources.
Yeah.
The net result of that is that you have a lot of people with chips on their shoulder in revenue who didn't make partner in Deloitte or wherever, and they have a point to prove against the taxpayers.
Yeah.
I do find the revenue got very aggressive and very unforgiving in the last couple of years. A lot of clients, following the COVID, builders, and I don't deal with them now, but I'd be aware of this through Gary, who bought my practice.
Yeah.
They'd be under pressure and no kind of mercy being shown at all from the revenue end. They say they do work with taxpayers and everything, but really it's not for a very long period, and I don't think it's good for the country, because the whole emphasis is on bringing in multinationals into Ireland. I think the emphasis should be on building up native businesses and local businesses rather than just giving huge handouts to foreign firms. Sorry, I'm not a card-carrying member of any political party here, just reassure you.
Yeah, you're dead right. And do you think the aggression has just come in over the last couple of years, or do you think it's in like the last 20 years?
It's a culture of it's like the way any organisation has a culture. The Guards have a certain culture. The culture is the thing you can't feel. You can't kind of quite put your finger on it, but it's there when you join an organisation. It could be any organisation. There's a culture in Microsoft. There's a culture in Google. But there is a culture in the revenue of we're right and you're wrong. And that's it.
Yeah, and then you have to try and build the proper case to try and save the sorrows, as they say. AI is changing it like really, really, like it's changing super fast, and for small companies to try and keep up with it is really difficult, and it can be probably a nuisance to some companies, and then to other companies, and I presume maybe to yourself it's really beneficial, because I presume you on in your consultancy practice you would have had to sit and meet everybody, and you're going through individual questions. With AI, if you've programmed all that properly, and you said if you input the correct information, you can probably get to more companies and help more small accountancy practices out with it.
We are delighted to announce that this podcast is sponsored by Platinum Property Training.
Start your property education today. From simply one click of a button, you could be part of the Platinum team. We have made this so affordable for everybody in the country. If you have any interest in property, there's no reason why you shouldn't be part of the Platinum brand. We have got it all systemized. It is right in there with rookies. You can spend 4, 5, 6 or 7 months in there till you get to a certain level, and then you can step up your way through the programs, and you can really start to educate yourself. And we're here to help. We've got the best systems in the country. Click the link below, and we will see you there.
We just have a subscription model, Paul. We just say to an accountancy firm, if you're a small accountancy firm, you pay us €96 a month or £90 a month if you're in the UK, and that gives you unlimited access to the AI for 1 month. We put you on direct debit, and if you want 5 users in the firm, you get 5 for the price of 2, which is very good value. And, I see all the questions going through at any time. I don't know who's asking them, but you can see it really helps junior staff because they're brought up in a generation of working with computers, etc. And they know how to ask questions, or they can ask questions quickly and get answers and save a lot of time, get home earlier.
Yeah.
I should say to you too, even for people who aren't, our system is based on ChatGPT. We use OpenAI, but we customize it for tax. But there are a couple of AI systems out there. There's one called DeepSeek, which is Chinese, which I wouldn't use if you're concerned about your information because it's all going into China. Then there's another one called Perplexity.ai, and that's actually a very good AI system to use. Just, the same as ChatGPT because it gives you references to the answers.
Yeah.
And then there's Claude. And Claude is very good for text. If you're working in editorial, etc. We use Claude internally. And Grok, which is Elon Musk's AI system. They're all pretty similar. And the very latest Google one is called Gemini, which wouldn't be as good as the others, but it has a very good text to video, which is called VO, and you can write it. Tell the bot to make a video, an 8-second video of a soldier coming out of a trench shooting at the enemy or something. It will just do it for you.
Yeah, and do you find what do you find is the most digestible for people dealing with tax? So say I'm an accountant and I put a question back in. How do you find you get the best result? Is it through robotic stuff like that where an animation is coming out?
There's a trick you can use. If you want, say, in using any AI system, you can write a fairly basic prompt, which is what it's called. Say, for example, you want tell me about the close company surcharge for property companies. Okay, you can write that, but then you can actually tell the bot to write a better version of the prompt before you actually put in the prompt. So you can actually tell it to improve your prompt before you do it. And similarly, if you were, say, asking the bot to make a video of a child coming into a kitchen and seeing jelly on the kitchen counter, you can actually tell the bot to improve your description before you actually put it in as a prompt. So you can actually pull yourself up by your bootstraps, kind of with prompting, even if you're not very good at it. Yeah.
Well, from the last seminar we were at, and when the AI kicked in across all companies, and I was with some big, massive company owners, they all said, look, no matter what your level is with ChatGPT or AI, unless you're going to be left in the trenches, you need to start to educate yourself. Exactly, you don't need to know everything about it, but you do need to start using it.
AI won't take over. There'll be people using AI who take over.
Yeah.
Or you lose your job not to AI, but to someone who's using AI better than you are, or who's using it when you're not using it.
Yeah.
That's not happening. It's already happening. You can use AI for coding, for writing computer code, and you can get it to. There's a program called Manus AI, which you can actually get the bot to write a whole website for you and come back after later it's all done.
Okay, this goes back. Yeah. Then with the AI in terms of your business, I know. Let's say if in the earlier days you had to sit down with 5 Paul Greens on a normal day, and you had to take all the information and hold it and try and come up with a solution to their problem. What way has that changed your business? Like, as in, you coming out of the consultancy space and heading into the space you're in now, like on an input basis, how many people would ask questions daily in your new platform? Or
it's absolutely massive. At any one day, we'd have about 1,500 to 2,000 queries.
Jeez.
I can just look at the live queries now. I won't share this with you, but there's a query just been asked there. Can you reclaim VAT on expenses prior to registration? I don't know who's asking it. I don't know who any of the queries are, but that's just after being asked. And people can put in big, long scenarios, like I have a client who blah, 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 and he does this, and he does this, and he has assets of this, and he's going to die, and what do you recommend for his estate, or, what kind of estate planning should we be looking at? And that would take a week to write an answer to that beforehand. Now you can get a first draft within a few minutes.
So for an accountancy practice that may have 5 or 6 or 10 juniors coming up along the line, and I presume at one stage maybe the main guy would probably have to go and consultate with you and then try and go back and work his plans out from that point. At this point, you've simplified the taxation. It was simple as taxation can get right down, but you've also made it, well, it sounds like it's very, very affordable to go into every practice in the country, in Ireland and in England.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to Ryanair the whole business so that it's no longer an issue. The price is not an issue.
So the price is so affordable that you just can't be not but taken in.
I mean, to have tax world AI for a year, 96 a month, let's say just under 1,200 a year. A tax manager would cost you 70,000.
Yeah.
So what people do though is they'll make their excuses. They'll say, well, it's not reliable, even though it is. So the only way they get convinced is when somebody else tells them. So actually, we would get 2 or 3 sign-ups a day from people who have been referred by other people. They just heard about it, but we didn't have to sell it because the person who recommended it sold it for us. So we don't actually have to have, huge sales resources because our customers are our best salespeople.
So it's word of mouth going back around to say, well, look, it's after solving 25 painful questions in here very, very quickly at a very, very affordable price. So you're not having to run big marketing campaigns, or it's self-selling itself.
And if it gives an answer, it doesn't just give it out of the blue. It always puts in a reference where the answer came from. So if the answer is, referring to the VAT Act section 94 or something, it'll put that in the footnotes. Or if it's a case, a case that was in the courts, it will put in the reference to the case. So you can verify everything in the answer.
Yeah. And prior to the consultations that you used to do to now, was there the accountancy practice? Did you have them like could they have signed up to get some level of you for a year?
Yeah, they could sign up to Tax World, but it wouldn't have been the same level of advice. We have a members area on the site, which is still there.
Okay.
People can ask questions on that. But people don't tend to use the members area that much now because they have the Zillia, they have the bot. But they still ask questions on the members area. Usually, if I know that it can be answered by the bot, I just use the bot to answer it myself. Yeah. Have it done in 2 seconds.
Yeah. And on the back of that all as well, after you've done the transfer over from 2020, obviously you probably have a lot more free time. How do you miss the consultation side of it? Because I know a lot of people, I remember being even in PPN one night and they were saying how much value you'd given them, in an hour space. And again, this particular guy that I just had to be sitting at a table with, he was under a massive amount of stress. Mm-hmm. And they'd sat with you and I think, can't remember, he said it was your daughter or maybe it was something else. But
probably an assistant. I had a few tax managers in the office at the time anyway.
Okay. But the level of stress had dropped down hugely. But do you miss that in person? Do you miss connecting with people? Or you?
No, because you take the stress on yourself as well. Like you take their stress onto you. So, if somebody's under stress, I would feel their stress until the problem is solved.
Yeah.
But now with the AI, our goal the whole time is to create recurring income, subscription income.
Yeah.
So we're heading for we're already like over 700,000 a year in subscription income. So probably reach 1 million this year, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
For a very small team.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant. And again, in the world of tax, for like a young entrepreneur or maybe a business owner or someone that's stepping into the property space or any business, because we all have to pay tax, but it is so complex. And again, the tax magic books that I've read, for the pieces that I do, so I just normally sit down with them with a highlighter and I just go through little bits and pieces that I think I should maybe educate myself on, or even talk to my accountant in private on, and we go from there. What would be your advice to maybe someone starting out in business that, mightn't have got it right at the start, the tax thing may have came in on top of them, and it's a tough cookie to run a small company.
I hear you, Paul. I think the single most important thing for somebody starting out in business is to remember that the effort you put into a fairly useless business that's never going to be really huge is just the same as the effort you put into a business that's can be scaled.
Yeah.
So if you're going to really be in a business, try to be in a business that can scale, that can grow, and the more it grows, the less input you have to it.
Yeah.
Like software and AI but if you're growing numbers of people the whole time, along with the business, if it can't scale, it needs to be able to scale and grow, with the costs staying the same.
Yeah.
So first of all, you should try to get into a business that actually scales, rather than one where you're just going to be sweating for the rest of your life. Secondly, if you are from a tax point of view, it makes sense initially, if the business is going to make losses, to be a sole trader. But if you know it's going to make a profit, then you should trade through a company.
Yeah.
And a company means that once you're trading through a company, people will say to you, well, I have to get the money out of the company, so there's really no advantage in being in a company. Well, there is, because the company makes 500,000 profit. Would you rather have the money in a company, or would you rather not have the money?
Yeah.
The company can invest the money that it's made. Whereas if you have it all taxed, if you had 500,000 as a sole trader, half it would be gone in tax. Whereas in a company, you only need 100 grand to live in. So there's 400 grand left in the company, which can be used to buy a property or invest in something, So a lot of people don't get that. And I used to have to persuade, clients and usually their wife as well, sense of doing that. And the wife would usually say, "Oh, well, we have our tax paid then, so we're all up to date." Yeah, you're up to date, but you've lost $250,000 or half your money in tax. Whereas if you have a company and you leave the money in the company, then it's still yours to play around with.
Yeah.
So I think that's the single most important thing in starting off in a business or property business or whatever business you're in. And then the next most important thing is to get good people working with you, or better still, good AI systems working with you.
Yeah.
Really work 24/7 and don't look for leave. But good people working with you. And you can do a lot of work now with AI. You can create agents to do all kinds of jobs. So you don't need people to do that work. But good people working for you and who share the same values and the same culture as you do.
Yeah.
You don't want to have somebody who you're constantly having arguments with in the business. You want but you don't want a yes man either, who's just going to say yes to every idea that you come up with. You want somebody who can give constructive criticism, or somebody who would be a good member of the team. And most businesses are not built by just one person on their own. You need a team of people to grow the business, to be successful.
Yeah, and I think the word that sticks in my brain is company. Is to simplify it, it's a group of people, a group of good people, hopefully, that you can bring to a certain level. And maybe if they see your vision or your plan, we're going to have all these challenges thrown in. And if it's tax, we're lucky to have, good people like yourself around there. If it's finances that we need them, we just need to try and connect with the right people. And, all of these things are involved in growing a company. And I think a company is collectively a group of people. Folks, your network is your net worth. I've proved that several times already. So it's a good quote from Dan Penn: you show me your friends and I'll show you your future. It's a fact. Sometimes in life you have to let go of the good things and focus on the things that are going to make you money and make you successful. If you're looking to connect with high net worth individuals, join our community today with a chat system in there to help you grow and scale your business and your property portfolio. I hope to see you on the other side.
Yeah. Ireland, the word team stands for together everyone accomplishes more.
Yeah.
But Ireland is not a great place for raising money for a business. If you have a very successful idea for a business and you go into the UK or you go into, the US, it's actually a lot easier to raise money.
Yeah.
Whereas in Ireland, it's just there isn't any what's called capital markets really, where money is available to, you have these schemes like the enterprise investment scheme in the tax code, which are supposed to help businesses raise money, but they're more complicated. There's the things about 86 steps have to be gone through to qualify for the EIS. And there's a new one for CGT, which is a 16% rate of CGT for investors, called Angel Investor Relief. They're specially designed to make people not actually claim them,
Yeah, Jesus, make them complex enough.
It's like the revenue, put them on the statute book to please the Minister for Finance, but then they're done in a way that nobody will actually claim them, or very few people will.
Yeah, and that's one thing with tax. When I talk to other accountants knocking around, sometimes they say, "Oh, well, you'd ask them a certain question," and they'd say, "Well, it's sort of like if you ask 3 different accountants, it's going to be 3 different answers." And I'm like, "Oh, that's difficult," because it shouldn't. I don't think it should be, but and the fourth answer you're going to get ultimately is the revenue. So I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong
all the time.
Yeah. Well, anyway, that's brilliant. So if somebody is listening in, because we do get a lot of accountancy practices listening into our how can they, is it a simple process to maybe onboard with yourself? Have you made it as difficult as the revenue?
Oh no, well, it's you just go to taxworld.ie. If you want to use our AI system there, you can sign up for, I think it's a week or 2 weeks free trial. The only thing we require is that you give proper details.
Yeah.
So if you sign up, you put in your name, your actual phone number, not ab@bcd.com, which tends to be an Irish habit. In the UK, you don't get messers doing that at all.
Yeah.
In the UK, you give people a free trial. They actually sign up and they give their proper details. In Ireland, it's like, YZ at pqa.com, And we don't. Well, if people give their proper details, we do give them a trial.
Yeah.
So it's very easy to sign up.
They're just on board.
And particularly if you're an accountant, we'd be welcome you with open arms.
Yeah.
Your supply of crystal meth.
Yeah. Well, like, I mean, again, and even my own accountant, I remember him saying to me, "Now I'm going to have to ask Tax World that question for you." I was like, "Okay, is that going to be today, next week, next month?" It was going like, "What?" And he never seemed to get back to you quickly. But I think when he's listening, and he does listen into this podcast, and his practice has grown fairly good too. And he, like, again, if he has 10 people underneath him, I'm sure the questions are all the exact, they're all relatively the exact same. So it's probably going to be a lot more less jaw movement for him if he had got the office signed up to it.
Yeah, it's very easy to use. There's another AI system as well called Otter. I don't know if you've heard of it. You can put it on your phone, but basically you can put your phone in the meeting with Otter turned on, and it will record everything that everybody says and give you a typed transcript of the meeting.
Yeah, I've seen that a couple of times in a couple of our Zoom meetings. So I actually didn't know the name of it. I'm well behind with this AI stuff, so I need to brush up.
Actually, Google have it only now in the last few days.
Right.
If you're on a Zoom meeting, or sorry, a Google meeting with Google, Gemini will, you can press a button, it will record the meeting and give you a transcript of the meeting typed up.
Unbelievable. Yeah, unbelievable. Probably coming to the last of our questions, Alan, and again, thanks a million for doing this. This is when I told my own group that you were coming on today. I asked a couple of questions, and a lot of them came in about tax and thing, and I thought, no, hang on a minute, I'm not going to ask them questions because you can go over to the Tax World book and you probably get the answer to them. There was a lot about CGT, and it was about this and that, and loads of questions came in about property that we keep you here till the cows come home with it. But one of the questions
have another session with those ones maybe someday,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
I can put Azilia on the screen and we can show Azilia answering the questions.
Brilliant. Yeah, absolutely. Because we've probably about 100 and something members, and they're all at different stages, but they all have tax is a big frightening thing to them, and I don't think it should be. I think if you've got the right information, again, what you've just basically said to a normal business owner, even not an accountant, right, but a business owner, for us to have your brain in the company for less than €1,000 a year or whatever it costs makes massive sense, because you can avoid some. I think most times when you make a decision and it's a wrong decision, it's because you haven't got the correct information, or you've got wrong information, and it's a simple process to do it. But one of the questions that did come in, which I sort of leaned down through and picked my highlighter out, is the revenue always correct, or can they be challenged? And what is the usual outcome of the day? Is it something that you shouldn't do? Is it something that revenue would look at you and say, okay, now we're really going to zone in on you because you challenged us? Or is it a case that sometimes they are wrong and you can deal with them in certain ways? Or what's your opinion on it?
Yeah, I mean, the answer is they're right about 90% of the time, because they write the law and they write the guidance notes on it and they write the manuals on it and they know what it's meant to mean. But I'll give you an example of a tax appeal case we had where the revenue were wrong. And in that particular case, we had a client who was selling a business, and he wasn't, before selling the business, what he was doing is he was doing what's called a share buyback. So the company would give him money for his shares, and I think he got a couple of million for the shares from the company, and then that money would be subject to CGT in his hands, in which case the first 750,000 would be exempt. In fact, I think himself and the wife got it. So. But anyway, he was only paying a very small amount of CGT on the money he got out of the company. And the share buyback rules are laid out in the legislation, fairly clear what has to be done to qualify for share buyback. And one of the rules was that after the share buyback, you must not own more than 30% of the company, and the purpose of the share buyback must be to enable it to hand the business over to the next generation, which is what he was doing because his children were taking over. But the revenue had a rule of their own they made up, which said that you couldn't own more than 5% of the company, which wasn't in the legislation. And they had guidance notes on it and they had revenue manuals on it, but it wasn't actually in the law. So the revenue assessed this gentleman for income tax on the money he got out of the company, which was 50% plus interest plus penalties, etc., which was a tax bill of nearly 2 million, whereas it should have been only a couple of 100,000. So that's his life, that's his business, that's the money he got out of it, and he did own 30%, but he only retained the 30% for a further 2 years, and then that was gone. But anyway, the key point in the tax appeal case was that he did retain 30%, but that was okay. It was in the legislation, and he was allowed to do that. So we won the case, and the revenue were wrong. And there's have been other cases like before the tax appeal commissioners where the revenue are wrong, but they tend to be fairly rare. Be definitely less than 1 in 10, but they are there.
Yeah.
We had another case, similar case, where a woman got money from her sisters and used it to buy a property. Used the money the sisters bought the house that she was in and gave it to her as a gift, which was free of CAT. And the revenue said you can't do that because the only person who could buy the house was her, the person who was living in it. So therefore, didn't work as a gift because she got a gift of money, not a gift of the house. And we were able to argue that if you give money to a disabled brother or sister or son or daughter, that's exempt anyway. So even if she got the money off the brothers and sisters, it was still exempt under a different section of the CAT Act, which was Section 82 of the CAT Act. And Revenue weren't too happy about that. The fact that we actually only mentioned it when the appeal was actually going on. And but we won that case as well, and we got a refund of the money paid plus interest, etc. So that's the kind of mistakes Revenue make. They do make mistakes, but generally they tend to be right. That, to be fair to them,
We are delighted to announce that this podcast is sponsored by Platinum Ventures. Platinum Ventures, we buy houses fast.
Hi Dublin homeowners, are you struggling to sell your property fast in the open market, or maybe that deal has collapsed? Okay, if you're facing this type of a problem, we have the perfect solution for you. Welcome to Platinum Ventures. We buy houses fast. Any property, any condition. We close out them deals within 28 days. Cut out the stress of having endless viewings and having to pump money into property only to sell it. We are not estate agents, and therefore you will pay zero agent fees. Visit platinumventures.ie today. Platinum Ventures, we buy houses fast. A very small amount, yeah. And I think it's a lot easier to comply for especially anyone that's listening that, I hear a lot of people that want to start companies and they want to scale it and they may want to start out on the wrong foot. And I think from all of the tax talks we've ever had in here, it seems to be a lot more cheaper to comply with them and have them as your partners and work alongside them than try and do things wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Anybody who the COVID, the tax warehousing, that's a lot of people will be on the warehousing now, but it's very important to keep it up to date and keep your taxes up to date. A lot of businesses will be on that. But a lot of businesses are in difficulties as well. Restaurants and builders and construction, small construction firms, and usually the reason is cash flow. Yeah, you can't get the cash quick enough. Yeah, that does be the problem. You mentioned earlier on at the start of this podcast, you sold out a portion of your business in Ireland. If someone that's listening in here that obviously knows the practice, where could you recommend them to go if they wanted to, do you have any good guys that you would look in and say he's actually, when I talking to Richard Branson about this, he said you'd always try and either sell your business or maybe if someone's stepping into your business, you're trying to take someone in the shoes that clearly can take you out and do a better job. Is there any recommendations you could give? Now, I know no one's going to be better than you, Alan, but is there anyone that you could recommend to maybe our listeners that you feel that they could definitely help them with a tricky case or a tricky business plan that they're doing? There's the guy who bought my business, Gary O'Mahony, o'haradolan.com. Gary is his name. And if you just Google Gary O'Mahony or o'haradolan.com, you'll get his details. There's a lady down in Wexford called Stephanie Wickham, and then there's one in Kildare called Mairead Hennessy. So we would refer works to those, in consultancy jobs, refer them on to them,
Lovely stuff. Lovely stuff.
There's lots of competent people out there, they're not. But the years of experience that you get from actually being in the job, like I've been working in tax since 1978, and there's nothing that compensates for experience. You can learn a certain amount, but what you really learn is, in the trenches, in the job. That's the most valuable type of learning.
Yeah, absolutely. Final question, and again, really, I think a lot of people are going to enjoy this one. What does Alan do to enjoy himself nowadays? When I presume the platform that you've taken over now releases a little bit more of the consultancy stuff from you. So, what do you do to enjoy yourself nowadays? Do you play a bit of golf, or how do you unwind from?
I'd be completely useless at golf. I did try a few times to play it. Even pitch and putt, I'd be useless. I'm left-handed, so I'd have to get the clubs the other way around, and just never really. But what I do is, believe it or not, I write poetry.
Okay.
I actually have had 2 books of poems published in the UK. One was back in 1986, the other was in 2010. So I'm working on a book at the moment called Fine, it's going to be called.
Lovely.
Fine has a multiple meaning, because it could be a fine like a penalty.
Yeah.
It could be fine like fine, and it could be fine like fine dust.
Yeah.
So I actually have the manuscript here, so you can actually see it here. All
right. Okay. So that's what you do in your spare time.
Yeah, if I got an idea for a poem, I could be sitting on a chair on a beach or something, or sitting under a tree, and they tend to be funny. They're not that serious. Not always funny. They can be serious and funny at the same time.
Yeah.
But I enjoy doing that, and it's kind of the same skill, really, tried in a different way. So.
Now, I hope you don't use ChatGPT for any of them insights straight out the brain.
Tell you a funny story was when I was in revenue back in 1986, when I had a book of poems published. It got the UK Poetry Book Society choice. So I was on the Gay Byrne show in the morning, and I got the boss in the office, Mr. O'Callaghan, as the boss of the VAT office, said I could go down to RTE and on official time, because this was revenue time, it wasn't a half day or anything. So I was on the Gay Byrne show and reading a few poems and stuff. And then when I came back to the office, the tea break was on, actually. The morning tea break, which is a very important ritual in the civil service. So I had my cup of tea, and then the boss came over and said to me, shook my hand and said, "You did the revenue proud." Which I thought was very funny.
Listen, well, that's the best thing you could do. And I suppose you still have some very close friends in there too.
Lots and lots of friends from revenue, that I still would know, and many of them are retired. I'm actually retired. I actually have a pension from the revenue, believe it or not, because I was there like kind of 11 out of 40 years, so I got a quarter of the pension, just over a quarter.
Yeah. And was it an enjoyable place to work?
Yeah, actually, yeah. All kinds of people, all kinds of talent, and there's a very strong sense of, I wouldn't say us versus them, but it's definitely it's a good place to work.
Yeah.
And if you, a lot of people like it, and I certainly like it, and I certainly enjoyed working there, particularly when I was working on the Taxes Consolidation Act. I actually came up with the name, the Taxes Consolidation Act.
Right.
I was doing the slides for the minister, who at the time was Rory Quinn. and he was the Minister for Finance. And back then there were transparencies. So I wrote at the top of the title of the slide, Taxes Consolidation Bill, as it was then. And after that moment, everybody just took it that was going to be the name of the act. Nobody questioned it.
Ran with it.
So my claim to fame is I gave the name to the act.
Oh, well, that'll stand by it. Well, listen, Alan, I really appreciate for your time today, and hopefully we can do round two maybe sometime in the near future. We might open upstairs and you know, for anyone that's that really has listened into today, and you may have plenty of taxation questions and you want to try and stay one step ahead. I mean, I know it's a little bit of an expense for your business, but it's I hear some really, really expensive tax advice out there. And I mean, to log on to Tax World and have it as part of your team, I think you have that price at a great. I think it definitely should be in everyone's, you know, tools for building a business, that you don't have to keep on sitting there stewing stuff or waiting on your tax advisor to get back to you and then wondering whether you've done the right decision or wrong decision, and then ultimately getting, you know, building a business is serious amount of stress anyway, and you know, having to wait for your tax advisor to come back. How quick does your portal shoot one back to you? Like, is it within a day? Immediately?
Yeah. Let me just show you here if I can. See the screen there?
I can see that there now, yeah.
If you're an accountant and the client wants a letter about local property tax, there's the letter.
And no disrespect, but I think most accountants, well, there's a lot of accountants that are a little bit older and you know, they mightn't have changed, but that is what did that take? 2 seconds?
2 seconds, yeah.
My God.
That's why it's hanging here at the end, but it should put in the references as well. There you can see it's actually got the reference in there to where the information came from. So, which is an official government.
Yeah.
So let's say, can I claim? It's slow here for some reason. Must be your side.
It could be my side. Yeah, we pay for the cheaper internet.
I don't know what's going on there, but
it's probably because we're live streaming. That's probably
yeah, okay.
Might take a little. There it is now.
Let me just refresh it here.
Yeah.
There's the answer there. No, local property tax is not deductible against rental income.
Yeah, so if someone's trying to do a business plan or someone's trying to do, you know, and even for our own stuff, we always have taxation questions. There's your answer back within 4 seconds.
Exactly. Yeah.
And at that point, there's no need to contact you. There's no need to contact a member of your team. That's the answer.
That's the answer, yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. We prefer you don't contact us, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the way the world's gone. That's definitely. And just like, how do you think revenue this is like a tool, obviously, to help. Now, they obviously get thousands of questions coming in as well at some point. But I mean, what you've done here is you've eliminated loads of what from my side of the coin, it could be a stupid question to you, but it might be something that's causing me major stress. You've eliminated it in 4 seconds.
Yeah. That's modern technology for you. That's exactly it.
Unbelievable.
Let me just go back to the meeting here.
Well, listen, if you are listening in, anyone that's listening in, if you're listening in, you can watch this live on YouTube as well. So that's where you can jump over to YouTube and just pin it in, and you can see exactly what is happening behind the scenes in tax world as well. If you want to log on and maybe you have got all them questions, or maybe your staff is coming to you all day long with minor questions that are driving you simply mad, you could onboard your team onto this and get a question answered within 4 seconds. It definitely help the process.
Well, it's even faster. It's usually 1 or 2. You just see it typing up down the screen,
Crazy.
Exactly the same for the UK, and you can ask about, in the UK, the case log goes back to the 1870s. So you can say, are there any cases about whatever? And it'll just come back with a big long list of cases.
Well, Alan, really appreciate you coming on today and giving up a bit of your time for the younger entrepreneurs of the country, and for some, we have a lot of old dogs in here as well. They've been asking me a long time to try and get you on, and I know you're super busy trying to build out everything, and I really, really appreciate you giving up a bit of your time today. And maybe next time I'll spin the screen around and show you the people that are on. We could even ask them, 10 or 12 questions, or you can show.
Yeah, we can go live and have Basilia answer the questions that they ask.
Super stuff.
Any
last final thoughts?
No, just stay strong. Give flowers to people when they're alive.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. That's a good one. Well, listen, I really appreciate it. And for everyone listening in, you can follow Alan on LinkedIn, and you can definitely jump over to Tax World, download the portal for what I think is an extremely small fee. And just for the Tax World book, for some people that love the actual books, which I think was very digestible, I think it's like 19 or 20 euro, I think it cost me for one of them.
This one is 35 plus postage of €7.
Perfect.
So it's not that bad.
Yeah.
Save you a lot more than that.
Yeah. I remember seeing one of the tax guys' books upstairs. He actually had this in his folder, but he had some serious amount of notes written along the book, which would probably be a lot easier just typing in actually on board and on. Mm-hmm. Anyway, on that note, Alan, thanks a million for coming on, and we'll chat to you very, very soon. Cheers. Thank you.
And a brief thank you to today's sponsors of our podcast, Platinum Property Training and Platinum Ventures. Thank you very much for listening in.